Bismillah Rahman Rahim. This is Engineer Masood Akhtar Kiani. As usual, today we have the technical session number 121. Our subject is plaster as a material application and uh, decoration also. So before going ahead, I would like to request you to subscribe in order to reach the next video with easy access. And our channel reference is Material Engineer Official. By this way, you can click any materials of 121 material which are on board for the listening and comments and whatsoever if required. So plaster material, there are we will discuss about 8 types of the uh, materials which are using for the different scenarios. And let us go what is the plaster history and why it is required. So the plaster material is a carpet material for the new construction and where it covers the all of the uneven surfaces. So before different types, we will go through the brief history and the introduction about the plaster materials. So uh, the plaster is a building material used for a protective or the decorative coating of walls and ceiling and for the molding and the casting decorative elements in English. The plaster usually means the material used for the interior buildings decoration and the while the render for the exterior application. Another term is used for the material is the stucco, which is also often used for the plaster work that works in some ways to the produce relief and decoration rather than the flat surface of the application. So what is the plaster finish? Having the wall, if you have having the wall is not in the end of the building construction process. If you want to decorate your walls to cover their uneven surfaces, your contractor can finish your building with a plaster finishing. Plastering is a process remains the coarse surface and while the surface of the ceilings covered by the achieve in a smooth and the aesthetic finish. There are several types of the plaster finish, and in this article, we will tell you about the achieve of the 5 different types of the even finish of your wall and the different appearance, and it is also a choose with the use of the projects. The plaster finishing, also the application of the plaster, is applied in a cost of the plaster following finishing, smooth finish, sand face finish, rough cast finish, pedal dash and the pedal uh, dash finish, repeater finish, scrap finish, textured finish. Special material used in a plastering is the finish coat, aesthetic plaster, asbestos marble plaster, barium plaster, granite silicon of plaster, plaster of Paris, knee cement plasters. So these are the different types of the plaster. Plaster can be made by the mixed design from the concrete plant and the at the site also it can be mixed by manual procedure of the hand mix or by the small concrete mixer and or by the it is the pre-packed material from the company and just open it and according to the recommendation of the manufacturer we can apply also. So I will just show you some photos about the plaster. It is the sand finish, rough cast finish, and the simmer sand aggregate finish. These are the different types of the clusters. I will show you some more this sweater and the sweater and different types of the plaster application also. These are the decorative plaster and the also asbestos marble plaster and three, four other types which are already granite plaster, barium plaster, and the plaster of the gypsum. So all of these plaster have the different method statements and what can apply in accordance to the contract specification. We can prepare the procedure and take approval from the engineer and can be applied. But the plaster material needs a special uh, finishing and it's not a cladding. It can be make a uh, acoustic properties for the soundproof also, and it can be make the stucco properties, and it can be make as a textural and the graphic plaster and some portion of the U value, which is the insulated material also. So this depend upon the types of the material, types of the plaster, and the specification, and the depend upon the recommendation of the clients, what's the client requires. But mostly this material is applicable in for the application in all the standard, either the BS, ASTM, ISO, or other local standard according to the geography of the area where it's required. So all the plasters, eight, nine types of the plaster have the different strategy, different ingredients, and the way of the procedure, which is approved by the engineers. So plaster is a unique material to provide a building in a beautification according to the uh, architectural view of the building and according to the uh, client required beautification and the architectural decorative and whatsoever is required. So plaster is a very genius material and the application, if the application is more strong in accordance to the relevant standard and the specification, so it will not be lose its property for a decades. But the plaster life is uh, 15 to 30 years. Uh, in that times, we can check the plaster by knocking and by smith hammer and by other technical uh, studies. Either it is required, if requires the replaster, we can make the remove the previous plaster and the carry the another plaster, or maybe we can change from the stucco to the sand plaster, maybe from the sand plaster to the gravel plaster or graphic plaster, and whatsoever it is requirements, it can be changed because it did not cost too much according to the structure or any other local requirements or local obstruction and whatsoever it is. So this was the briefing about the plaster, which is the decorative part of the walls and the building after plaster. And in some plaster also, it show look like a uh, it's look like a beautification and the architectural view and the look like a cladding also. But actually, it's not a real cladding where the process is there. But now there is too much workmanship is there also in order to make the plaster in a unique way for the beautification and the architectural perspective. So thank you very much for your time, and we will see each other with another subject uh, within a few weeks, also with few days, also, and have a nice day.